Hello friends, in this video I would like to teach us how to solve polynomial equation in just 3 simple steps. If you observe closely the equation on the board, you actually attest that this is no longer the usual quadratic equation that we are most times conversant with. The value or the power of x in this equation has exceeded 2 as that of quadratic equation. So when an equation is of this form, it is tagged a polynomial equation. We'll call it a polynomial equation. So now you can see that the highest power of x here is 3. We'll call this a third degree polynomial equation because of what? That the highest power of x in this equation is equals to 3. For quadratic, highest power there is 2. Quadratic equation is also a polynomial equation. It is a second degree polynomial equation. So how do you go about solving this kind of what? Third degree polynomial equation? It is very, very simple. It just involves what? Just these 3 steps as I listed them on the board. First step, or first thing you have to do if you want to solve this kind of equation is find x minus c. What is this x minus c? This x minus c becomes the first bracket of the equation. How do you get your c? We are told that this c is the value of x that will make this equation to be equals to 0. So we want to solve this equation. First thing we have to do in order to solve this equation is to get our x minus c. I will be taking it gradually so we'll get to what? Comprehend. Now if we get our x minus c, first thing we have to do, x minus c. How do we get our x minus c? We'll first of all get our c. What is c? C is simply the value of x that will render this equation to be 0. How do you get the c? We'll do this by trial and error method. First of all, we'll list the factors starting from 1, minus 1, 2, minus 2, then we'll have our ellipses till we get the value of x that will automatically render this equation to be equals to 0. Now let's try them out. If you assume the value of x as 1 and substitute it in this equation, we will automatically have 1 raised to power 3 plus x raised to power 2 minus 16x, that is x becomes 1 plus 20. Will this give us 0? You see, if you try this out, 1 raised to power 3 will give us 1. Then 1 raised to power 2 will also give us 1. 1 plus 1, 2. 16 times 1 is giving us 16. So 2 plus 16 will automatically give us 18. 18 plus 20 is giving us 38. So 1 cannot be the value of x that will make this equation to be equals to 0. Okay, even if we try minus 1, it will not still give us the result. But let us observe 2. If we observe 2, if we replace the value of x here as 2, we will see that if x becomes to have 2 raised to power 3 plus 2 raised to power 2 minus 16 in bracket 2 plus 20. Will this give us 0? Let's check. 2 raised to power 3 is 8 plus 2 raised to power 2 is 4 minus 16 times 2 is giving us 32 plus 20. 8 plus 4 is 10, is 12. Then 12 minus 32 will give us minus 20. Then minus 20 plus 20 will automatically give us 0. So we have actually gotten the value of x that will render this equation to be 0. So our c becomes 2 because 2 is the value of x that made this equation to be equals to 0. So our x minus c becomes x minus 2. So this is the first factor. This is the first factor. Now, since we have gotten x minus 2 as our first factor, which is our x minus 2 as our x minus c, the second step, divide the polynomial with x minus c. And our x minus c in question is x minus 2. We are going to divide this equation thoroughly with x minus 2, which is the first factor. Now, if you do that, it's very simple. We'll divide this using long division method. How do we apply the long division method in dividing this equation? First of all, we'll draw a long division. Since this is being divided by this, automatically this one comes in. We'll have it x raised power 3 plus x raised power 2 minus 16x plus 20. Then what to be outside? Our divisor, which is x minus 2, becomes what comes out. Then we are dividing this. How then do we go about dividing this? Now look up. Very simple. As we are all conversant with what? Division by long division method. Now when we divide this, x divides x raised power 3, we'll have x raised power 2. When you get your result, with this your result, you multiply what? The divisor. X raised power 2 times x, we are having x raised power 3. X raised power 2 times minus 2, we are having minus 2x raised power 2. Then we'll subtract as usual. X raised power 2 minus 2x raised power 2 will automatically give us 3x raised to power 2. Then x raised power 3 minus x raised power 3 will give us 0. Then we'll bring out all these values. We'll have minus 16x plus 20. We'll keep on dividing till we get our remainder as 0. Okay, what else will go? X into 3x squared will automatically give us plus 3x. Then 3x times x, we're having 3x squared. 3x times minus 2 will have minus 6x. Then when we subtract, we'll have 3x, okay, minus 16 minus 6x. Minus 16x minus 6x will automatically give us 10 or minus 10x. We'll have minus 10x. Then 3x squared minus 3x squared is 0. Then we'll bring out downward plus 20. We'll keep on dividing till we get our remainder as 0 as usual. So x into minus 10x will automatically give us minus 10. Then we'll multiply. Minus 10 times x, we are having minus 10x. Then minus 10 times minus 2 will automatically give us plus 20. Then we'll keep on subtracting. When we subtract this, minus 10x minus 10x will give us 0. Then 20 minus 20 will also give us what? 0. So now, you observe that we have now divided this expression by the factor which is x minus 2. What else do we do? You can see that this division has reduced this polynomial equation to a quadratic equation. You can see the result, or you can see the quotient here. So this dividing with the factor x minus 2 has reduced the polynomial equation to what? To quadratic equation. Now, what are we now going to do next? Step 3. Solve the resulting value to get the remaining factors. Since we have this as the first factor, we can now solve the quadratic equation to get our remaining factor. In polynomial equation or in third degree equation, polynomial equation, we are expected to get 3 roots of x. Just like quadratic equation, we have what? 2 roots of x. Since the highest power of x there is 2, For third degree polynomial equation, we are expected to have what? 3 roots of what? X. Remember that this one becomes your first factor. Then you can get the remaining what? Factor from solving the quadratic equation. Okay, we can now solve the quadratic equation and get the remaining value for x. When we do that, we'll have it that this is the quadratic equation or the expression x squared. We have reduced it to quadratic expression. As you can see, we have it x squared plus 3x minus 10. We can equate it to 0. How do you solve quadratic equation? We are conversant with this. By factorization method, you multiply this, their constant c, to the first part of the quadratic equation. When we do that, we have minus 10 times x squared. We are having minus 10x squared. Then find two possible values. When multiplied, it will give us minus 10x squared. That same value, when added, will get what? Plus 3x. And when we do that, you observe that the two possible values in question are 5x and minus 2x. 5x times minus 2x, we are having minus 10x squared. Then 5x minus 2x will have what? Plus 3x. So what are we going to do? We'll simply substitute the two possible values for this middle factor. Then we can factorize and get the value of x. Now when we do this, we'll have it that x squared plus 5x minus 2x minus 10 is equals to 0. Then we can factor out, or we can factorize. When we factorize this, what is common here is x. We'll bring out our x. In bracket, x into x squared, we're having x plus 5. Because x into 5x gives us what? 5. Minus what is common here, we're having 2 as a common factor. In bracket 2 here, we're having x. Then minus 2 here, we're having plus 5. We have factorized this equals to what? 0. As usual, pick the values outside the bracket and take one of what? These brackets. When we do that, we have x minus 2 in bracket x plus 5. Then, since this is a polynomial equation, we are expecting 3 results. Like I said earlier, this first what? Factor, that is from our x minus c, this becomes the first what? Or another factor of this polynomial equation. So if we are going to include it as x minus 2 all equals to 0. If the product of 3 numbers is equals to 0, it simply means that either of these is 0 or possibly all the what? The numbers are 0. If that is the case, it implies that x minus 2 equals to 0, or x plus 5 equals to 0, or x minus 2 equals to 0. If we solve for the value of x respectively in each of this equation, automatically we'll get the results. Their results as x for this equals to 2, or x equals to minus 5, or x equals to 2. So these are the values of x for this polynomial equation. Thank you for watching. I guess you enjoyed this class. Do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ojuk's Online Maths Class, so as to enjoy more of these interesting topics. Have a nice day, everyone.